I learned this week that if you haven't read every single book in the world, you have no business doing a top 10 list. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another weekly update as we are rolling along through spooky season. Lots of interesting things going on right now. I think I had a lot of fun last week. May not have been the most popular content, but hey, it was stuff I had a great time making, so no regrets there. But guys, let's do like usual. Let's get into what am I reading. I did finish The Bone Hunters. Quite an adventure. Here's the thing is, I think for the first time ever in a Malazan book, I like the first half more than the back half. Usually these books are so back heavy. I think books 1 through 3 were some of the best. Book 4, while not bad, it kind of got back into that I don't know what's going on stuff that Malazan likes to do. But the last chapter, phenomenal. By far, guys, I don't say by far, but yeah, this one has definitely knocked off Deadhouse Gates as my favorite in the series up to this point. That's the only reason you can get through a 1,200-page book in about 12 days, you know. So it's very exciting stuff to talk about. I'll be doing my spoiler talk number 2 on it eventually. Maybe this week, maybe not. I don't know. We're going to talk about that. But yeah, lots of interesting things to talk about. And for the handful of that war band that is still left and still reading along with me, I hope to engage with you guys. It was a very good conversation on Discord after I finish. So if you guys haven't hopped on the Discord yet, I highly encourage that you do, even if you're not reading Malazan. Lots of cool things going on there. Then a couple of digital things, guys. I did finish Heart-Shaped Box by Joe Hill. This was one that I started to read while I was waiting to go on with Malazan. And actually, you know what it was? That was actually the book before. That was Girl Next Door. What this one was, I'm getting so reading so many here, I'm getting them confused. That one was, I was at my kid's Little League game, and that, guys, it was loud, and it was like, that is not the place to be trying to read Malazan, so I just started reading Heart-Shaped Box and kind of finished it after I finished Malazan. But the good news is, guys, yeah, Joe Hill is 2 for 2 for me, 3 for 3 if you count Lock and Key, which I think you should, and if you count In the Tall Grass, which he co-wrote with his dad. But as far as like his standalone novels by himself, he's 2 for 2 with me. That Nosferatu now, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I think I probably enjoyed Nosferatu a bit more, and I'll talk about that why in a bit. But yeah, I have nothing but great things to say about what Joe Hill is doing as an author. I definitely look forward to diving more into his works. I'll probably do The Fireman next, but if you watched the last book haul, I did pick up just about everything he's written, so I'm excited to dive into that side of the King family. And then it was a one-sit read, guys. I read I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream by Harlan Ellison. It's the first time I've dipped into the strange word mind of Mr. Ellison, and what an entry it was. Yeah, it was, like I said, you know, just seriously, it was like I was on my lunch break. I was like, okay, let's see if I can knock this out before I go home today. And I wasn't even done with my lunch. And it was 20 pages, guys. Very easy to read and nothing overly complex. But lots of the charming sci-fi with a twist of horror that I like around that time period. You know, basically like a AI gaining sentience and taking over the world kind of thing, and the post-apocalyptic nature after that. So always a fun story, but it does deal with the horror aspect of it, because you do have these people that are basically being tortured on their daily lives. And yeah, the realization of why the book has its title in the closing pages, it was like, whoa. So yeah, a very heavy themed book that you know, you can probably talk about for a lot longer than it takes to read it. So I'm definitely interested in reading more Ellison. I did get that whole collection of just about everything he's ever written. So I will be interested in diving in some more. If you got some Harlan Ellison recommendations, please drop them below. I would like to know. Now let's move along, guys, to what am I going to read when I finish Heart-Shaped Box. I went ahead and started The Fisherman by John Langan. Now, this is one that's been on my radar for a long time. It won the Bram Stoker Award, I think, in 2016, so that's what really first got it on my radar. Then it seemed like it was everywhere in the horror community around 2 years ago. It seemed like everyone was reading it, but now I'm like bringing it up and people are like, oh yeah, I've never read it. I'm like, what? It seemed like everyone was reading it there. I think I've talked to like 2 people who have actually read it now. But there's a Stephen King influencer. I don't recall her name off the top of my head. But when she reviewed this, she said she believed it very much was a meeting of Stephen King and H.P. Lovecraft. That's what she thought. Now, obviously, that's something that's going to get my attention quite a bit. I'm about, I don't know, 20% into it. And I can see the setup being like a Stephen King book, but I'm waiting to see the payoff and obviously the Lovecraftian part of it. But it is a very, very slow build-up. Like the beginning is basically setting the misery because it is very, very depressing to start. So it's kind of like The Girl Next Door. I would say you probably need to be in a good place. And if you've just lost a family member or a spouse, I don't know if this would be the best thing for you to read right now because it does deal with that a lot in the first half of the book. So, but I'm interested to keep going for sure. Like I said, I've been very excited to read this and finally doing it, and that is the plan. Hopefully I can get this finished up this week because the last book I've got for spooky season, guys, is kind of a hefty one. That is Necroscope by Mr. Brian Lumley. That's a big boy, small print too. So compared to everything else I've read October, this would probably be the heaviest one. Everything, well, I guess Bone Hunters would obviously be the heaviest one, but as far as my spooky season content, that would be the heaviest one. That's a book, guys. Like I said, once I said that I didn't feel like there was anybody writing scary vampires past like Anne Rice, people obviously jumped on me and said you need to read the Necroscope series, even though it is a different kind of vampires. Well, I'm always up for a different kind of vampires. Dresden Files did a lot of different kind of vampires, and I really, really appreciated that. So I'm looking forward to diving in. That will wrap up spooky season. So if I finish all my spooky season stuff and it's still October, what am I going to do? Am I going to pick up another book? No, I'm going to go ahead and move on to my November stuff, and they'll be starting with book 1 of Wayward Pines by Blake Crouch. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. If you guys have been following the channel, you know how I feel about Blake Crouch's stuff. He's just knocked it out of the park twice for me. So I'm interested to keep going with his stuff. Let's talk about this week on the channel a little bit here. So while I did get my voice back, I'm still having a little bit of clearing the throat issues, so bear with me here. But let's talk about this week on the channel, guys. I get some reviews out there for you. I did get up that review for The Girl Next Door, as I talked about in the intro there. The Girl Next Door, basically, here's the summary of my review. It's a really good book, and you shouldn't read it. Like I said with Fisherman, you need to be in a good place mentally. You need to be in a happy place when you read that book, because it will really affect your mood. It really will. I don't care how strong-willed you are. You're going to have, if you have a soul at all, that book's going to affect your mood a little bit. But every bit the horror classic. I feel like it's kind of been a modern horror classic. It's been out to made to be. It really did open your eyes to some things, and it really makes you want to research the history of what actually happened in that small basement in Indiana. And it's every bit as horrifying as the actual events, guys. So again, I think it's well written. It is very gripping. It's well done. It's just very difficult to read. And a lot of things get told that it's very difficult to read, and it's like because it's blood and guts, but this is just on a different level of difficult to read. So, yeah, watch that review if you haven't yet. I think it'll give you an idea if it's for you or not. Then I did go ahead and do another manga review. No, it's not Berserk, and I know you guys that want me to do Berserk, you got to realize Uzumaki took me a day to read. Berserk is like, the next arc is like 13 or 14 volumes. So be patient with me. It's going to happen. It's Sci-Fi September, spooky season. That content's kind of taking priority. But I will be getting to Berserk, so don't worry, strugglers. It's coming. But I did my review for Uzumaki, which was my first venture into Junji Ito, and that fitting the spooky season content. Figured that was the best time to do it. Had lots of things to say about it, and it did answer my question of how in the world can you make Spiral scary? Well, he did a very good job, and I think that he's a very different kind of writer and artist than I've encountered in manga or comics for that matter at this point. But I like what he is selling so far. I enjoyed it so much. I'm very much looking forward to jumping into Tomy or Geo very soon. Maybe Smashed. I have all 3 of those collections, and exploring some other horror manga, because I said it in that video. I feel like Japan, Korea, places like that had just been kicking the pants off of the States when it comes to horror content lately. And yeah, it definitely seems like manga is no different in that medium. So I'm definitely interested in diving more into that, because this was my, believe it or not, guys, the horror guy that I am and the comics guy that I am. I never really read a horror comic if you don't count like, I don't count like Sandman or Hellblazer as horror. So if you, just like straight up horror, no, I never really did. This is my first venture into that as well. So Very good. Set the bar very, very high. And I had lots of things to talk about. I even do some spoilers in that if you guys want me to talk some spoilers for that. And then I did a top 10 list, and I did get told that, I get an automatic dislike is if I ever do a top 10, because there's no way I could have possibly read everything in the world. Well, I was like, well, I did use the word my. But hey, it is what it is. I did my top 10 stories from H.P. Lovecraft, because that was a harder list to make than you think it is, guys, because the guy has tons of stuff, and there was a lot of comments about, I can't believe you left off this and this. Look, guys, it was hard for me too. That could have been a top 25 Lovecraft test. I love his works, so it was really hard. So that for me, that is the best of the best, with honors, sir. But it's a story, a universe, a shared universe that I think really, I don't want to say doesn't get enough credit, because everyone talks about the Cthulhu mythos one way or the other, where they have good or bad things to say about it. No one can deny the influence that he had on the genre as a whole. I mean, to the day, anytime there's a horror novel that comes out with any of those Lovecraftian themes, you hear about it, right? That's the big selling point. It's got tentacles in it. Well, it's got them Lovecraftian themes, don't it? But there's more themes in his works than just big scary monsters. And I talk about them in that video. And I think that any of those 10, I think, will be a great place for you to jump in and check out the works of Mr. Lovecraft. And then I closed it down, guys, with my book haul for September. Book haul videos always gain a lot of interest, a lot of discussion, and there was a lot of great things that I wanted to thank people for sending me this month. Kind of the funny thing about that was someone said, I love maps, because I did get a map from Alicia of Westeros. And because I had said in my Why You Should Read Song of Ice and Fire video, I said I did not have that map. And so she sent me hers. Thank you again. But the thing about that, I was like, I think as fantasy fans, it's kind of just encoded into our DNA at this point that we love maps, right? I mean, if you open a fantasy book and it doesn't have a map at the beginning, you're probably like, what are you doing right now, right? So, yeah, that was kind of the most fun comment I think I had on there. But lots of discussion going on, lots of recommendations going on. I always thank you guys for that. And thank you guys for sending me that awesome stuff. And all those indie authors who sent me stuff that I don't have time to get to right now. What I keep saying is, guys, even if I don't have time to read them right now, I encourage you to chase your dreams. Do it big. Go for it. Go all the way. There are lots of authors today that at one point were probably begging someone to read their book. So I have no problems with indie authors sending me stuff, even if I don't have time to get to them right now. I will happily give you a shout out on the channel and get to them when I eventually cut through some of this stuff that I have, this TBR stack that I have that's just, longer than like a DNA strand. But that's kind of where we are for this week. Let's talk about a little bit of next week plans on the channel, guys. And I have to say, if you aren't a fan of Stephen King and family, you might struggle next week, but I hope that you are. It is spooky season, so Stephen King, being my favorite author, is going to kind of take some precedence here. Now, what I say by Stephen King and family this week is we are going to be doing all kinds of things from Stephen King and Son of Stephen. That is, of course, Joe Hill. Now, I'm going to start off with Son of Stephen, Joe Hill, by going down to Christmas Land and doing a review for Nosferatu. Why this one is kind of significant to me is because this was the last book I read right before I started this channel. I was doing my Stephen King reread at that point, and someone had told me, it was a Jaime Fuego from Horror Show, had told me he felt like, hey, the apple didn't fall far from the tree. I think you should try Joe Hill. And so I did. I tried Nosferatu, and I loved it a lot. And at the time, when I finished that, I was like, okay, I'm finally starting Wheel of Time. But that was one I wanted to get off there before I started, this big 14-book journey, right? But it's just kind of funny to me, like I said, taking it back to zero, really, right before I started this channel. Seems like a lifetime ago, really. But Nosferatu, great book. I'm going to talk about why I think it was really great and why I think it has a place in his dad's multiverse, because it does take place there. And I'll talk about the reasons why I think I'm encouraged about him potentially taking over the multiverse for his dad if that time does come. Then I'll also be doing another Joe Hill review that will be for Heart Shaped Box. So back-to-back vids from Joe Hill. So hope you guys like it. Hope you guys have read it. If not, I hope you'll watch the review and decide if you want to read it or not. Because Heart Shaped Box, like I said, I think I like Nosferatu just a little bit more. But Heart Shaped Box, if you are a classic rock to like 90s rock fan, I think that you're going to have a blast with that. All the references in there are really, really cool. And it's just an awesome ghost stories. And if you love dogs, guys, you're going to be all over this book. It's really, really cool. So if you like heavy metal, you like ghost stories, and you like dogs, I think you're going to have a great time with Heart Shaped Box. And I can't wait to talk about those two before I move along to the tree here. That is, of course, going to be Stephen King. And we're going back into the multiverse, guys. We did take a quick little break there for Sci-Fi September and now spooky season. And now I'm getting back onto the multiverse schedule when I did finish up Needful Things last month. And that was a reread. But I'm going to talk about this story now and give it into the multiverse treatment as well as those multiverse connections. And there are a handful of them. A great, great time with that reread. And again, I think that might be one of his most underrated books and definitely one of his best villains that he ever created in Leland Gaunt. And I'm going to talk about why I think I felt maybe it's kind of gotten forgotten a little bit. So what else could I possibly have for next week, guys? Stephen King related? Well, I think that some of you guys will be pleasantly surprised that I will be continuing my Stephen King Palaver series. And my guest this month, of course, is going to be the great Brian Lee Durfee of, Brian Lee Durfee fame. Brian Lee Durfee's reviews. He has a booktube channel. He is a published author. And we are going to talk about our love for Stephen King. It's a crossover that's been a long time coming. I think Brian is a great, great guy. I think his channel is phenomenal. And I can't wait to actually pick his brain a little bit about what makes him such a big Stephen King fan. And that's always just what the King Palaver series is. We aren't talking about any particular book. We're just talking about what makes you love this author. What about his works really just clicked for you and made him one of your favorites. And I believe that Brian's favorite, just as mine is Stephen King. So I think we'll have plenty to talk about there. That should be happening late next week, and that'll kind of wrap up Stephen King and Family Week. If I do have some time, guys, I will be doing that Bone Hunters spoiler number 2 talk. That'll be the only thing that'll be non-Stephen King related this week, I think. But that really just depends on time. Lots of things going on in real life right now, so I'll try to get it out there just in case. But at this point, I feel like I finished that book really fast. Everybody's telling me I finished it too fast, so I might wait another week and do those spoilers then for people. Wait for people to kind of finish the book and catch up here. But that's pretty much it, guys, for the books. And there are a few TV and movie talk things to close us down with here. As you know, I said that we do some spooky season stuff, movies and TV and stuff during the month of October, because it's the only time of year my wife will watch scary movies. Well, we've let our 9-year-old kind of join in on the fun this year, and he's been picking some movies that he wants to watch. So first, not really exactly a horror movie per se or a Halloween movie. I always kind of looked at Edward Scissorhands as a movie like The Nightmare Before Christmas, another Tim Burton feature, where it can be any time from Halloween through Christmas. That movie somehow works. And this was his first viewing of Edward Scissorhands. It was my first one probably, guys, since, it first came out in DVD like in the early 2000s. So it was very fresh to me again. And I think I kind of went into it expecting it to just be like 90s cheese, really bad. But holy crap, that movie has aged spectacular, and it has just a ton of heart. It really does. And I think it has one of the most magnificent soundtracks ever made. It really is just that good. I mean, the soundtracks, it's like the stuff, the screen is going on, it's like, okay, that's kind of an emotional moment, but that soundtrack really brings it home and makes you feel things. It really did. So I think it's just, I just think back to a time when and I know this is going to sound like back in my day thing here, and I'm sorry, I am a Gen Xer. It's going to happen sometimes. I just think back to, do you remember when Hollywood had ideas that were just this incredibly original? It's just amazing to think about. What in the world, what kind of glue was he sniffing to come up with this concept? But God, it just works so dang good, and it's easily one of Tim Burton's best films. So he watched Beetlejuice last year, Edward Scissorhands this year. We watch Nightmare Before Christmas every year around Christmas. So I don't know what... He's talked about wanting to watch Sleepy Hollow. That's the next Tim Burton one. I'm like, I just don't know if that'll keep your interest. It is kind of slower, but he loves the Headless Horseman. He loves that what's the Sleepy Hollow Disney adaptation from like the 1940s or whatever. He loves that one. So might let him do it and see how he does. And then we had time for another movie, and he said, well, I know what scares Dad. Dad is scared of two things. He has two phobias, thalassa and arachno. Yes, fear of the ocean and fear of spiders. So, he chose arachnophobia. Now, another movie around the same time as Edward Scissorhands. This is one that I saw as a young man, and I got to think that, look, at the time, I don't think there's very many people who are like, oh, spiders, I love them, right? They're always kind of like, it's like rodents. I'm not scared of rodents or squirrels, but I'm not exactly running to pick up one and pet it. right? And I think there's a lot of people with spiders like that. I was kind of like that before this movie. And when I saw this movie, dude, this has things to this day. I still check the lampshade. I still check slippers. I still check this toilet. I still check the shower. All these things for spiders because of that movie. All those things stuck in my memory of this movie I haven't seen in almost 30 years. And he made me watch it again with him. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, 2 or 3 times I did go, oh, out loud. So don't matter how old you are, guys, your phobia is still your phobia. And you want to talk about a movie that has aged well. I thought for sure that was going to look really, really corny. But using practical effects, guys, it really does still look terrifying. So if you are scared of spiders, as I am, that movie still, it's going to do well. I had no idea that it was Harry from Dumb and Dumber. I can't think of Jeff Daniels, that's his name? Jeff Daniels was in that movie. I didn't even remember that part. But I think it's a good family movie. It's going to, if there's a family horror movie, I think that one's kind of it. But be careful, guys, because you can scar your kids with it. Because my kid thought it was funny that spiders scared me. But you know what? After that movie, he's kind of like looking around for him now. So I was like, hey, you asked for it, buddy. That's kind of it, what we watched. I do want to kind of just close this down by talking about the reviews for Ghostbusters Afterlife. Now, Ghostbusters Afterlife, it's getting mostly good reviews, so I'm not trying to just pick out the bad ones here. But I just kind of looked out, when I first looked it up, the first couple of results that came up in my Google News feed were very negative on it. And I was like, oh no, what happened? I was actually kind of encouraged about this one. And I'm reading it, and their problems with it is they're saying that it had too much fan service. And I started reading deeper into it, and I was like, these are people really, really still mad that 2016 movie got dragged so bad by fans of the franchise, isn't it? And I started really thinking about it, and I was like, look, guys, I went to business school, just graduated a year and a half ago. So I know that they're not teaching different things in business school now. I want to know at what point did giving audiences what they want become a bad thing. You hear all the time about toxic fans and creators shouldn't have to bow to audiences and things like that. Who are you making it for if you're not making it for audiences? What point did pleasing your audience become a bad thing? What point did insulting your paying customer become a strategy? I just will not ever understand this. It started around the time of Ghostbusters 2016. Then The Last Jedi really just kind of brought it up to the forefront of just attacking fans. I don't get it, guys. I really just don't get it. If someone doesn't like something, you know what? Say sorry. I guess it just wasn't for you. You didn't quite jive with what we were going for. That's the way it used to be when you made a movie that was received negatively. Now everything just has to be like attacking the fans. And this, like I said, it's getting mostly positive reviews from people who are fans of the franchise, especially. That's what matters to me is people who love Ghostbusters 1 and 2. Are they going to like this movie? I look, too much fan service can be too bad. It can get really bad. It really can. But at what point, like I said, did giving audiences what they want become a bad thing? I'll never understand that. And they're still not teaching this in business school, guys. They are saying you do what the people want. A lot of those ethics that I learned in business school, I apply to this channel. So I don't know where they are learning these strategies. I don't get it. And these are mega billion-dollar corporations doing these things. I don't understand. So that's where I'm at, guys. That just kind of frustrated me. I'm looking forward to seeing Ghostbusters Afterlife. Are you looking forward to seeing Ghostbusters Afterlife? Drop in the comments, guys. Let me know. Let me know what you're reading, what you're listening to, what you're playing, what you are up to, guys. What are you reading? That's always the fun one. Drop in the comments. I'll talk to you there. Have a great, great weekend.